Okay, so last video I talked about why I think it's a good idea to leave the cities from a purely observational, point of view. It was my opinion based off of my observations of what I've learned over time. Um, Basically, it just seems really risky to stay in cities. Now, I would like to talk about why I think it's a good idea in an ethical sense, the moral sense. Are they honking here? I might have to cut this short. I'll go on anyway. I'll cut it short if, something abruptly interrupts me. Like someone banging on the door or something. Right, so I think it's an ethically correct choice to leave the cities. Because, these brands and products, these systems, they rely on the work and the exploitation of the poor. And it's just, no matter which way you look at it, you can say, well, you can't save the whole world, well, you gotta make small changes, well, just participate in, like making it seem like being a consumer and participatory part of the system can be turned into a good thing. It's not a good thing. Just getting electricity in the US or many of the first world countries relies on an infrastructure, that exploitation of not even people, of the natural systems of the world, blowing tops off mountains for the coal to generate electricity. Damming up rivers, killing off fish populations that need to swim up those rivers, or the indigenous populations that rely on those rivers, if that country even allows their indigenous people to have land still. It's just a wholly unethical system, this globalized world of hierarchies, so I want to try to draw a parallel here. I'll make it brief and then I'll go into it. The brief parallel / analogy I want to draw is, pop culture. Pop culture is, pretty easy to relate because the concepts are readily digestible. Okay. In the book Brave New World, the this society, this, very high tech, futuristic society, this almost utopia. It's a dystopia in the book, but it's presented as, like a self-proclaimed utopia. It it debases, it devalues humans. It creates a hierarchy, and this hierarchy is composed of, varying grades of people who are, in varying states of their cognitive abilities, cognitive and physical abilities, like an alpha is, uninhibited and, within all their mental faculties and capable of, the highest intellectual work necessary in the land, in the society. While like an epsilon or something is, the lowest ranking and left to do menial grunt labor. That's the parallel I want to draw. We have that in society and we don't acknowledge it. And, Americans might want to think, well, We don't have slavery here. No, you don't have slavery within your borders as acknowledged slavery. You have slavery in other ways. You have epsilons scattered all across the world that you benefit from. And you yourselves are not all the betas. Or the alphas are the betas, I slipped up. But you're not up at the top. But relative to the rest of the world, you kind of are. You have, say, if you were to structure it as a pyramid, you rely on treating most of the world as epsilons. Pollute their water, cause them to deforest their lands, mine their resources. It's just, you don't see it. You don't see it immediately. You don't drive out an hour and see, oh, well, people are living in poverty to keep my standard of living. So what you see are other, let's consider most Americans who are likely to watch this are middle class. Middle to working class. Personally, I belonged in the, working class, in the lower class. I am the son of immigrants, and, there wasn't very much mobility in the one generation I got there, or I was born there. So I'm lower class. I've worked retail jobs and service sector and stuff like that, and I can speak from my own personal experience that the lower classes don't get a lot of say-so, but they get a lot of the benefits. So they're not treated like epsilons. So you could say maybe they're like, what? Like, I'm forgetting. Was there something after? There was a term after betas, right? Because they correspond with letters, so. Because it's not deltas. No. Anyway, they're supposed to correspond with letters. What I'm trying to use the parallel of Brave New World for is to describe this socioeconomic hierarchy. And you see, this brought up in sociology and, anthropology, cultural anthropology. And what's important is that there's a bubble, and it shields the American public, even the working class, from recognizing that they are profiting, they are benefiting, directly or indirectly from exploiting most of the world, most other countries, and most of other countries in native people, or if those are countries that exploit their native people, they have their own little pyramid going on. What I'm saying is that the U.S. shifts the blame. They outsource their blame to these other countries, and they're like, oh, those countries are treating their people badly, and you're benefiting from it, is the point. When it's come to resources necessary for American industry or the military-industrial complex, they don't hesitate to send in the military or to instigate conflict. And I'll say a very unpopular but verifiable little factoid here. The crisis in the Middle East with terrorism and in Africa with, extremist religious fundamentalists has been caused by the United States. We just are too close to it to admit it. We are in an era where not enough of the evidence has come forward to convince the public. But it's funny because history does repeat itself. If you look at history, you see that the U.S. did this in the past in Latin America. And not just in Latin America, other parts of the world, but notably in Latin America recently, within recent history. And, high school textbooks or whatever will go into it. So it's not like it's some secret knowledge or, conspiracy theory or anything like that. And which is why it's almost infuriating to try to discuss this nowadays, because if you try to bring it up with people, they blow it off as, conspiracy theory, or, which, by the way, conspiracy theory, those two words together make up a concept that is itself not false. It just means a theory about a conspiracy. But politicians and media have turned it into, well, that thing is a conspiracy theory, so it must be false. No, that's not how it works. There's outlandish theories, and there are factually reinforced ideas about the way certain situations happen to pan out. Like I said, though, like I was saying, this system, it's ethically, morally unjustifiable to continue living in the States, and I gotta go. I gotta go. And even living in, a city in this country, I don't know why I can justify it. I really don't. I really don't. There's a mosquito flying around. I don't know if you can see it. You probably don't have the resolution for it, but I hope I don't get bitten. I'm conflicted about even staying in cities here. So I think the most rational thing for me to do is to avoid cities altogether. Try to get away from the infrastructure that may collapse, as much as possible. And try to be as, true to my ideals as possible. I have a lot of respect for people who, become self-reliant, or, homesteaders and people who go off the grid. There's a YouTuber by the name of Jamie Mansell, and I used to watch his videos, probably like soon after high school. So he's been around for a good while. And back then, he was living in Vermont. He had graduated from, I think Brown University, but he's not very orthodox. And he made this video where I think he tore up, or somehow, I think he tore up or burnt his diploma, his degree from Brown University, because he doesn't believe the institutions are all they claim to be, or what people in general have a consensus that they mean. So I used to follow his videos, and he lived in Vermont, and he, somewhere along the line, he got involved with the toy making project. I think think he was contracted to work on a project, and it didn't work out so well or something like that. And then he got into another contract, and that went well, and he earned a lot of money from it. And I think he deserved every bit of it, because the guy's creative. He's ingenious with his because I think he tries not to go by the established norm of things. He he gets down to the function of things, and I think I respect him for that. Not just his rejection of the mainstream, which has proved to be dysfunctional. But I don't think that I have the skill set that he had going into things. By the time that he bought his land out in Vermont, he was already a graduate, and had all that reinforcement of knowledge that he may have been already inclined to, but he certainly had a system of reinforcement. Whereas I know as much as a layperson does in engineering, and I know like basic algebra, so I wouldn't be able to construct a building, or work out the tensile strength of materials to I don't know how I'm gonna fare. I really don't. I know the fundamentals of plant biology, and biology in general, and chemistry in general. The fundamentals, and I understand physics, and geology, and it's like a scattered array of things that I understand on a fundamental level, and I understand on a basic level, but it's like I'm an undeveloped polymath. It's like I just couldn't make up my mind which field of study I was going to do, and so I know a little bit about a lot of them, and not enough to function with, not enough to practice. At least that's the way that I see myself, and I gotta somehow make it work. I think I can make agriculture work for me. I probably know the least out of all topics about business, but I've got to somehow develop some sort of skills in that section of studies, if you could call it a study. To be able to stay afloat, make a living, and not just be at subsistence level, but I want to be able to afford other things, like books. I want to be able to continue to educate myself. I want to be able to indulge in media. I want to be able to have access to internet and stuff like that. Although I'm not particularly attached, it serves its function psychologically. I mean, I'm not the most social person in the world, and that deficiency is like I'm not the most social, but I still have like that social requirement somehow and wired into my brain. So I try to be social in other ways. I used to blog, and I made some friends that way, but I've grown apart now since I stopped blogging. And yeah, I mean, friends in real life that I have are childhood friends, and I didn't so much reach out to them, they more or less adopted me. And that's kind of been the general trend, even friends in college, when I was going to college. So yeah, In summary, because I'm looking at the timer thing here, and it says I've got like 20 minutes going. This little video hasn't had a set goal. So, in summary, points that I have made have been I don't think it's ethically, morally justifiable. And I think that society isn't structured in a way where you can reasonably stay at the top without feeling some sort of responsibility for those at the bottom. And then ending it with, well, how am I going to make a living now? How do I go on from here? Yeah. This is probably going to take a while to upload. Yeah, that last one did. I was there for like 2 hours. I finished smoking. I quit smoking this morning. And I was there uploading the video, and I really had to go to the bathroom. But I had to wait because the video wouldn't have loaded. So I was sitting there, and right when I started to load it, I was like, I should have gone to the bathroom. I should probably not have had that coffee in the morning, but well, serves me right? Luxury. I probably won't even be able to afford coffee anymore. I think I'll feel better about myself. You know? My conscience. Be more at peace. I'll be able to, quote unquote, sleep better at night. I don't have trouble sleeping, but probably be able to rest easier. And in the case, the likely but not inevitable case that civilization collapses, I'll be safe at a distance. I really hope civilization doesn't collapse. I'm reading this book, Epigenetics, and we've really come a long way, but we're not all that advanced. You know, we've come a long way from Egyptians using cat feces and semen in their medical, treatments of people to cure, illnesses or maladies. But it wasn't all that long ago that people were, it wasn't all that long ago when people were convinced that germs weren't real, or that they were created out of thin air. And modern medical doctors, they kill so many people with their lack of care. Yeah, I guess I could quickly say this. The medical industry in the U.S. is really heavily geared towards pharmaceuticals and, the insurance companies, and there seems to be some sort of collusion and monopoly going on that really doesn't seem to care for people's health, They care more about livestock health than people health. One example is the cross-contamination or the infection of people, because doctors and nurses and staff, they don't properly sanitize in hospitals. And so when you go to a hospital, you're more likely to get sick, statistically. Yeah. Anyway, what am I going to do with my life? I'm going to miss a lot of things. I'll make a video on how many things I'm going to miss. But yeah. I hope this doesn't feel like rambling and seems more like a, monologue, soliloquy type, introspective conversation, open-ended, by the way. Comment section, and my email or something is probably attached to this thing. I'm hopefully when I'm like 80 or something, I could look at this and be like, oh, that's what I look like, and that's what I was thinking about, and that's who I was then. But if people look at this and comment, that would be uplifting as well. That'll be validation on top of the memories. This is probably going to take 2 hours to download or to upload.